All right, good crew this morning. This morning we're going to do it's actually the first flow in Bernie's book. So you'll get your basically all of your lower body, hips, low back, and your legs. So it's kind of a nice one for that. So we'll get started. I'm going to just plug it in so I don't lose out. Good morning, Sandra. Gonna lose any power. Good to see you. Don't see your daughter here, but maybe she'll pop in one of these days. All right. So let's come to a comfortable cross-legged seat. You can sit, or if you'd rather lie back, you always know that that's an option. Feel free to lie back, and if you're going to lie back, instead of having your legs straight, which can be a little hard on the back, you might want to have your feet a little bit apart and have the inner knees rest together like so. If you want to straighten them out, though, feel free for the whole time or at any time. Hands are on your thighs, palms up or down, it doesn't matter. In your lap if you're seated. They can be on your belly if you're lying back. They can be by your side, palms up or down, it doesn't matter. Whatever feels right for you. One hand on your belly and one hand on your heart if you're lying back is another lovely, calming, completing place for your hands, circle of energy. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears and then let them slide down your back away from your ears and tuck your chin in slightly, lengthening the back of the neck, letting your eyes fall softly shut if you haven't already done so. Just settling in to your space, your room, onto your mat. Just let go of your morning thus far. And let go of today and whatever's in store. Try to let go of anxieties and worries. Put that virtual little bubble of safety and comfort and calm around you. Feel the earth beneath you. Feel grounded, rooted to that earth. Feel that stability. Bring your awareness to the skies above you. Notice that uplifting sensation that you get when you bring your mind's eye out of your house to those skies. Yet you're still anchored to the earth, but with this lightness. Do a body scan. Now take note if there are any areas that are maybe in need of a little extra care or attention this morning. And whatever issue or issues do pop up, it's not that you're going to dwell on it or them, but acknowledge whatever does arise. It can be physical or mental, maybe spiritual or emotional issue that pops up. When we check in again at the end of the hour with how we're feeling, you may notice that things have subtly shifted in perspective or sensation. And then beginning to notice your breath, noticing whereabouts in your chest cavity that you're breathing, noticing how fast you're breathing, and whether you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Just learning to focus your awareness, and then beginning to breathe in and out again through your nose. Pull the air in, follow its path up your nose, down your throat, into your lungs, and then follow it back out that same pathway. Feel the swirl past the rings of the nostrils as the breath exits the body. Notice when the breath enters the body, the coolness there at the rings of the nostrils. Notice how it's warmer when it exits. Maybe you even notice the tickle of the air across your upper lip as the air moves in and out of your nose. Notice how your breath is deepening. Feel your belly move, expanding on the inhale, coming out, going in on the exhale. Knowing that that's the diaphragm working. And then start to even out your inhales and exhales. Maybe put a count to 2 or 3 or 4. And that same steady count on the exhale. Evening out your breath, but not forcing it. Letting it deepen as it happens naturally. And if the counting doesn't really work for you, try this little mantra, little phrase. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. Matching that phrase to your inhales and your exhales. On another inhale, pay closer attention to your rib cage. Notice how it expands. Watch how it contracts. Pay attention not just to the front of your ribs, but the sides of your ribs. Feel the back of your ribs expanding. Feel them contract. Go deeper now. Take a look at your lungs. Virtual sponges. They fill up the majority of our chest cavity. Feel them expand and contract, but see them with your mind's eye as well. These lungs of ours are tender organs, the first place that we assimilate chi from the outer world to our inner world. Send them some gratitude for being in good health, for all the work that they do for us all day, all night. Just take 3 or 4 more breaths here on your own, going within. Take 1 more breath. And then maybe set your intention this morning, what brought you here to your mat. What's your purpose for doing yoga this morning? And then maybe revisiting that purpose throughout your day, taking it with you off your mat into your day. If you are on your back, make your way to one side. Everyone can blink their eyes open and closed a few times. If you were seated, you might want to lift your knees and stretch them out. Give them maybe a rock and a bounce, point and a flex. And then we start off, as is often the case with butterfly pose. Maybe I'll turn off those comments again so they don't interfere with the picture. Good morning, Sarah. Oh, Michael's here. Good morning, Michael. Here we go. Whoops. Just a minute. Come back here. Now I've gone and done it. There we go. Turn off comment. Okay, so we're coming to butterfly pose. So your foot soles are going to go together. Let your knees open to the side. If you need to support under your knee, remember you can always get a block. You can use the block inside that diamond shape if you like as well. This one can aggravate sciatica, so you might want to take your little quilt, or if you don't have one, roll the end of your yoga mat over and just sit your sit bones just on the edge of it, so you feel that pelvis of yours slightly lifted but tilted forward as well. And then take an inhale, and on the exhale, start to lean forward. If it's okay for your back, allow your back to round. If it's okay for your neck, let your head dangle, or maybe rest it on that block. Where your arms are wherever they naturally go. So if they want to be inside that diamond shape, then let them be there. If it feels better to have them on the outside, resting on your legs, then do that, just as long as you're not pulling. If the block feels better on your feet, then move it there. Maybe you lower it to a lower position now or later, or maybe it feels better just to let your head dangle. Another thing you can do with the block, maybe it's inside the diamond and you can, shape of your legs, and you can set your elbows on it. Maybe it's just your forearms and this is where you lean. Maybe it's so that you can rest your head in your hands. Just finding that place of comfortable discomfort. Be mindful of back issues. If you have any disc issues that you shouldn't be rounding, then don't. Keep your tummy pulled in and then just hinge at the hips, leaning from the hips with a flat back. You can keep your head in line, or you can let your head go, even though you keep your back flat like this. So not a problem. Remember, that's the first principle of yin, is that we come into a pose at a comfortable discomfort. So we look for that tugging sensation, and you'll find when you lean forward that there's a place where you just kind of naturally stop and then hang out there. We want to probably back away from that tension and that tugging, but instead in yin we stay with it and we try to be still. That's the second tattva. Relaxing, coming back to our breath. The other part of the stillness is an inner stillness. So we try to pay attention, we try to stay present. That's where the breath can really help you. If you find, you notice that your mind has wandered, and it will, then bring it back by coming back to your breath. And that's the reason why there's so much emphasis on the breath, is that's what helps keep us in the present and inside our bodies. Because the breath is happening now, in this moment. And the more we can practice with this awareness and presence, the better the benefits are. On your next inhale, you're going to slowly uncurl your way back upright. Exhaling when you get there. Take a moment, just lean back on your hands to release those hips. And then set your foot soles down, maybe about the width of your mat, and just go through some nice windshield wipers, putting a little bit of motion back through those hips and legs after that hold. All of the holds today are 3 minutes. And that's the third principle or tattva, is time, that we hold these poses for minutes rather than just 5 breaths, which tends to be all the other styles of yoga. More on that as we go. So we're going to go into Dragonfly next. So you might want to swivel sideways if you've got a hardwood floor that tends to be a little cold. So you've got padding under your heels. Again, this is an aggravator of sciatica, so you might want to sit your sit bones on the edge of something, just so you can get that slight lift and tilt of your pelvis. If you feel fine without it, then no worries. Inhale and take your body over, so you're twisting a little bit. This is great for the lower spine, over to the right. And then as you exhale, start to lean over that right leg. All those same principles apply as for butterfly, so keep your low back flat if you need to by pulling in your tummy, hinging at the hips. If you're okay to round, then by all means round. Make sure you're not pulling, your arms are just hanging out, relaxed. Gravity actually works on them in that way, to pull your body forward. So find that edge again. And then find your breath. If you find that the back of the knee, this is too much, or the hamstring, this is pulling too much, you can slip one or both of your hands beneath that knee to put a bend in it. If you've got your block handy, not a problem to put a block under that knee as well, and that'll take the pressure off the back of the knee and the hamstring. You do want a little bit there, but you don't want to have it too intense. It's always that balance we're looking for on so many levels in our lives, but here in yin, it's that comfortable discomfort, a place where we do notice that it's a little uncomfortable. We can notice the tugging. Maybe you're noticing the very top of your hip joint, some pressure there. If it's fairly uncomfortable at the top of your hip joint, it might be bone on bone, so be careful. Don't stay with pain ever. We have to learn to recognize that level of comfortable discomfort that allows us to continue to breathe in and back out through your nose, just as if you were still in that meditation part. All yoga is basically meditation. That's the whole purpose of it, using the body to get to your mind. Stilling the body, and as they say, an old saying, still the body, still the mind. Steady breathing. We actually have a thought for today. This is a good point for it. Do good in every moment. Think good in every moment. Thank the divine for every moment. Life is just a moment. Just another breath. And then on your next inhale, slowly come back up to the center. Exhaling when you get there. If you're using a block under that knee or maybe on top of it, bring it over to this side as you inhale, and then as you exhale, leaning forward over the left side. Notice that stopping place where you notice there's a lot of tugging sensation is maybe not as far forward as it was on that first side. And as I often say, that to me is some of the magic of yin, that you notice what your body is capable of. With patience, steady breathing, how it can let go and elongate a little bit. And the outside observer might not notice anything changing, but you can feel it. The other thing you can do with the block is you can set it it's a little tricky on your shin because it's not as much of a stable place, but if you can, you might find that resting your forehead on the block when you're resting it on your shin like that can be really nice. Sometimes when you can relax your head and your torso, then the legs will often just automatically follow suit. And then you might find that you can move your arms a little further forward, or maybe move the block a little bit lower. Listen to your breath. Your breath is always your guide. In and back out through your nose. And if it feels better to breathe out through your mouth, that's totally fine. Become aware of what this is doing, not just to your hamstrings and to the back of your legs, but to the hip as well. As I mentioned on the other side, you can feel the compression at the top of your hip joint, but also your spine. Feel that slight twist in the low back. You might notice that there's a bit more of a pulling sensation across the top of your pelvis on the right side. Maybe starting to come up towards the ribs, you notice a little bit of a pulling on that side.
maybe you do notice along your spine, there's a little bit of a tugging sensation, kind of an elongation. When we notice these kind of achy tugs like that, that's an indication that we're targeting fascia. And when we have our muscles engaged, it's pretty hard to get at the fascia properly. So that's why it's so important to keep checking in and trying to relax your muscles, because often they'll engage. Now on your inhale, slowly come back up. Exhale when you get right to the center, and then we'll go down the center. If you find that you are losing some of the pull along the inner lines of the legs, maybe wiggle your legs a little further apart, centimeter or two. Take an inhale and then lean down the center. Again, remember, this is what I often say now, the beauty of doing yin at home is you don't have any comparison to worry about. So lean to where you find that stopping place. And it might be not that far forward. Some of you might be right down with your forearms, or maybe you've got the block here. This is a great one where you can lean onto your forearms. Pretty much everybody, even with tight hamstrings, and this is another one where you can pull your heels in and have quite a bend in your legs if you like, and work more on the hip joint. That might give you a little more flexibility there, to lean further forward. But using a block can be a nice way to lean forward, even with a flat back, even when you don't have much flexibility for leaning forward in your spine. And it's often related to the hamstrings as well, this ability to lean forward. And it's also, as I often say, a huge factor is the shape of your pelvis and the shape of those sockets that the femurs, the thigh bones, go into and are held into. Think of angles, and once you get that straight bone of your femur hitting part of the bone of your pelvic socket, that's the limit of your range of motion, and you can't change your bones. And it's amazing how different, though we just think a pelvis is a pelvis. No, everybody's different, just like everybody's nose is different, everybody's hands are different. So as long as you're feeling it, you're doing it. If you can feel the tugging, you can feel that sensation, then stay with that tugging, with that discomfort. For those of you that are able to rest your head on a block or on the floor, it's nice. We're in our last minute here. You might want to find that you can let your arms relax out towards your feet. That can be really nice on the shoulders. And again, you're totally surrendering. Two more breaths. On your next inhale, slowly uncurl your way back up. Exhale when you get all the way up. Lean back on your hands. Release those hip joints. Should feel fantastic. Take as long as you need there. And you might want to help your legs in. That was just a little over 9 minutes with our switching sides and position. Lean back. Arch your back. That can be a great way to release the spine. And then whatever you like next, you can do a reverse tabletop where you're putting some muscle work back into your legs. It feels like you're wrapping the muscles and bones back together again after we've tugged apart. You can do windshield wipers like we did after butterfly. You can do a combination of those things, whatever
whatever feels right for you. And then just taking your time. When you're ready, come over onto your tummy. Gonna come to Sphinx Pose, do a little bit more for our back now. We've leaned forward, we've given a slight twist to it. Now we're gonna do some back bending, some extension. So come up onto your elbows if that's okay. But if that's not okay, then lie your rib cage down and have your hands under your shoulders, and that'll keep your back in a little bit more neutral up position. If you're okay, you're up on your elbows. Your hands are wherever you feel right to have them. Palms down, palms together in prayer, maybe clasping opposite elbows. Whatever feels right for you. Adjust so you feel that stability and comfort. And then relax your legs and relax your bum. Your head is whatever feels right for you. Maybe looking at your mat, maybe looking slightly in front of your mat. Maybe looking down feels better. You can let it drop as well, though we've just done 2 poses with our head dangling, so you might not want to do that, but some people find this feels really nice for the neck, so do that if you like. As long as your bum, your legs are relaxed and you can feel the work happening in your low back and a little bit in your arms too. You can press into those elbows, or if you're on your hands, into your hands, just slightly, not too intense. And when you press into your elbows, you'll feel right away the effects in the low back. The other thing you can do, you can float your feet up into the air. Find that sweet spot to relax your legs, relax your bum. And if that you find is too much, then maybe just open the legs. And that can also increase that bend sensation in the low back. But remember, comfortable discomfort. Don't make it sensational here. Become aware if you've relaxed a little too much into your arms. Maybe put that slight pressure back into your elbows. You can enhance this pose with your breath. If you start at your tailbone, in your mind's eye, breathe up the back of your spine, right to the base of your skull. Exhale down the front of your spine, right back to the front of the tailbone. Inhaling up, exhaling down. And if you want, you can bring this into your neck for these last 45 seconds. Tuck your chin in and then lift it up towards the ceiling. Don't do this if you start to feel dizzy. Don't do this if there's any kind of neck pain by doing that. Just keep your head where it was before. This is a nice way to stimulate the thyroid gland. And it also is nice to pull into the ligaments of the front of your neck. So much these days we have our head forward, looking down. This is a nice way to counter all those hours of head forward, as well as countering the effects of the aging process. Now take a nice inhale, and then on the exhale you're going to slowly come down. Stack your hands, favorite hand on top, let your legs float down, turn your head to one side, or have your forehead on your hands if that feels better. Puff your low back out with your breath. That helps to release it. And then if your head is on one side, whatever side it's on, pull that leg up alongside you so you're lying with one bent and one straight. That's one further release. You can do windshield wipers here with your feet up into the air. Maybe your forehead is on your hands doing this. You can do a combination of those things, or you can just lie still, whatever feels right for your body. Just relaxing, letting it go, but noticing the ebbing and the rebound of the pose. We're going to do one more round of back bending, so let your legs or leg come back down. You have lots of options here. You can, if you were in Sphinx and you don't want to do any more, you can maybe go back to Baby Cobra. You can stay in Sphinx if you didn't have your legs bent or apart, then maybe you take it that much deeper this time. If you like, you can go up into seal pose. That's where you straighten your arms off my sleeves. And here you have options too. You can push into those arms, so you're pushing your body up higher, or you can use your arms as posts and relax your torso down into the body. So pushing with through your hands, or relaxing down into that shoulder girdle. Either one is totally fine. Here, the legs as well. Relax your bum, relax your legs. Notice the sensations first before you do anything more with your legs. If you've got plenty going on, stay here. If you'd like a little bit more in the back, open the legs. Or, if you prefer, you can float the feet up into the air again, finding that sweet spot where you don't have to do much effort at all to keep the legs up into the air. Listen to your breath. Your breath is your guide, and it doesn't lie to you. So if you can't find that steady, meditative breath, then back off in some way. Notice what this is doing to the front of your body as well. The pulling in the lower abdomen, maybe right up to the rib cage. The pulling in the front of your hip joint. And at any time, if you feel that it's too much, back off, and definitely don't stay with any pain, ever. This is a great one for disc issues. It'll help push the discs back into alignment. And for this last minute, if you want, again, pull your chin in so you can feel how the back of your neck lengthens, and then lift the chin up into the air. It's like there's an imaginary tennis ball behind your neck. So you have to lengthen, go up and over. Again, don't do this if there's any dizziness that happens, or if there's any neck pain. Dizziness can be because, for some people, tipping the head back pinches off the carotid artery that supplies blood to the brain. Feel those ligaments in the front of your neck getting that lovely, delicious, deep tug, waking them up, waking up those cells that make more fascia cells. Now take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, slowly come down, vertebra by vertebra. Turn your elbows out to the sides once more, stacking your hands, but with the opposite hand on top. That doesn't feel quite natural. Turn your head the opposite side. Puff your low back out with your breath. That can help release it. And then whatever you did on the first side, whether it was drawing up a knee or doing windshield wipers, just a further release. Or just lying still, paying attention to how this feels, enjoying the rebound. And then when you're ready, slowly let those legs go back on down. Push up onto all fours. Might feel nice to do a couple of cat-cows here. Put a little bit motion through your spine. So arch for that cat. Drop the belly, spread the sit bones for a cow, looking up. Really tuck your tailbone, drop your head, look for that belly button. One breath to one movement. Ending with a flat back, and then coming to a seated position, swinging your legs to one side or rolling over those ankles. This next one is Shoelace Pose, or half shoelace, whichever one feels right for you. So we'll start off. Again, it's an aggravator of sciatica, so you might find that sitting on the edge of a rolled up little quilt is a little bit helpful. That can also help with tight hamstrings too, tilting your pelvis forward. It's nice to have that little bit of cushion under your sit bones too, I find. So bringing your right leg fairly tight, and then swing it from the hip over. So your knee's on top of your knee. I find a good analogy is if you were sitting in a chair and you were crossing your legs like that with your knee on top of your knee. The only difference is that you're not high up, so it gets into the hip. It rotates the hip. No knee pain here. Support. Put a block between your knees if you like. If it feels better to have, if the knee's fairly high, it feels better to have that block under the thigh like this to rest on, then do that, as long as it can relax, because we want this tugging into the hip. If your knees are together, no problem, then lean back and maybe pull in the bottom one as well. Nestle your knees together by coming up onto your hands, wiggling. Make sure that your sit bones are both on your mat or on your rolled up little quilt, so that you've got that stability. You don't want to be crooked here. And then we're going to take an inhale and start to lean forward. So plant your hands in front of your knees if they're both bent, and push back a little bit. If the bottom leg is straight, then you're going to find there's a fair amount of pressure on the back of the knee. So do that, what I mentioned before, slip your hand or hands underneath the back of the knee. Put a block under the back of the knee as well, to take some of the pressure off that knee. But also with your hands on either side of your straight leg, if you're doing the half shoelace version, push back a little bit. And that'll right away take the weight off your hips, off your knees, and it keeps it back in the hips. So slowly leaning forward, flat or round back, totally up to you. Head in line or head dangling, another option. Those of you that aren't using the block under the back of your knee, or that have both your knees stacked, both legs bent, you might find that resting your head on a block can be really quite nice, and then that helps your legs to relax, because you're totally relaxing in your torso and your head and your arms. Use your ocean breath here. That can sometimes help with the intense sensation through your hips. That's, remember that HA sound in the back of your throat. But we close our lips and push that HA through your nose. It sounds like the ocean. Breathe in that same constricted throat way. This far off ocean sound actually helps with our nervous system, relaxing, kicking in that parasympathetic nervous system to help calm us, because this is a pretty intense pose for most people. It's a great one for us Westerners because of our tendency to not live on the floor. And so we don't take our hips in these outer and inner rotations that are so essential to their good health. And so we have this tightness built up from years of living in chairs. And so this is a fantastic one for working deeply into the hip sockets, but easy does it. Send your breath there. On your next inhale, slowly uncurl. Exhale when you get all the way up. Undo your legs, setting your foot soles down. Lean back on your hands again. Just take a moment just to enjoy the release. Notice that rush of warmth, coolness, spearmint feeling. running through your hips, your legs, maybe your back. Again, a reverse tabletop can be an option. Windshield wipers can be an option. Straightening out your legs, maybe bouncing and rocking, whatever you feel you need here. And then we've got 2 legs, so we'll do the other side. So this time take your left leg in, bring it across, stack the knees on top of each other. Use your block under the back of that straight leg if you're going to do keep your bottom leg straight. If both of your knees are nicely together, then lean back and tuck in the bottom leg. Maybe come forward onto your hands and nestle those knees together a little snugglier together. And then reset our timer here. And then we're going to plant our hands on either side of that straight leg if you're in half shoelace, or in front of the knees if you're in full shoelace, and keep the weight in your hands as you start to lean forward, just so that we keep the weight off our knees. Make sure there's no knee pain, so remember, use your block, blanket, cushions to take some of the pressure off wherever you need it. And if your bottom leg is straight, always remember you can use your hands underneath the back of that knee as well, so that there's not so much pressure. You've got the weight of your leg on top of that knee, so there's a lot of pressure on the back of the knee in half shoelace when we lean forward. So again, you can take it, alleviate some of that pressure with a block with your hands, or by keeping that weight in your hands as you lean forward. Come back to your breath. It's up to you whether you rest your head on a block or whether you let it go. Remembering your ocean breath can be very helpful here. One of the cool things about these long holds is that you notice when the sensations kind of disappear a little bit. And maybe you can move a little further forward. Notice if you've all of a sudden got some tightness in your shoulders. Maybe it's your jaw. Let it go. Breathe in, slow down, breathe out, let go. Last not quite 30 seconds. One more breath. And then on your next inhale, slowly uncurl your way back up. Exhaling when you get all the way up. Undo your legs, just moving slowly. It's an intense pose, as I said, one of the most intense for us Westerners. So take a moment here just to enjoy the release. Notice the rush of blood through all those constricted areas, hips, knees, even your low back. And then whatever you feel you need, whether it's the windshield wipers, reverse table, straightening, rocking, bouncing, combination of any of these releases. And then from here, we're going to come down onto our backs, doing basically squat pose, but on our backs. So, so here you can make it a little bit of core exercise if you like, but be mindful of your low back. You might want to put your hands underneath your butt cheeks so that you've got protection there for your low back, and then pull your tummy in and slowly with control bring your legs up into the air. Work your hands out from under your butt cheeks. So your feet are up in the air. You're going to open them wide. Keep those feet kind of flexed like you're standing on the ceiling, and then bend the knees. Maybe you grab behind your thighs. Reset this. Maybe some of you can reach the calves here, keeping those knees right out by your shoulders. Maybe you reach the ankles, or still on the camera, it's the only thing you can't do the landscape view, it's always portrait there. The ankles you might be able to reach. Some of you might reach the outside of your feet or even the inside, whatever feels right for you. And for this first minute, not quite minute, we're going to pull a little bit. So use your biceps a little bit and pull down. Not super hard, just a little bit. So you notice right away how much that increases the compression in the front of your hip joint. You might also feel some sensation in the back of the hip joint, deep in the butt cheek. Your low back is probably, it's protected here by lying on your back, but you'll notice your tailbone is probably curling up as well. What happens if you flatten out that lower back? Notice how your legs come a little further away. But those of you that shouldn't be rounding, that's an option, is flattening that low back down so that you can feel the sacrum fully on the floor. If you're okay to lift that lower back, then by all means do that. Now stop pulling and just let your hands be there as weights. Another one that works very deeply into your hip socket. And then start rocking over your spine. We just hold this one 2 minutes, so it's not as long as all the other ones were 3 minutes. This can feel nice across your spine, nice massage. Onto your rib cage as well. And then, just for fun, curl up, touch your toes to your nose, give them a little kiss, touch them to your forehead. Do that in your mind's eye, and then let those legs float on down. And just let your arms relax, your legs relax. This one is a fantastic one for enjoying that spearmint feeling of heat and cool rushing through those areas, especially the hips. A really good way to remove toxins. But with your yogic breath, you've increased the oxygen in your blood and should feel really, really nice. And it's also nourishing your hips. You can do windshield wipers if you like, dropping them side to side. If that feels good, maybe you want to curl up again into a little ball. Usually that's not what we want. Maybe you want to straighten out your legs, and that's fine too. And then if you want, you might want to slip on a hoodie if you don't already have one on like me. Our arms are going to come out to a T. Going to bend in both of our legs and drop those knees slowly over to the right. You can scoot your right hip under a little bit to give yourself a little bit more of a twist. You can turn your head and look to the outstretched left hand if you like, if that's okay for your neck. Remember, if it's not good for your neck, then don't do it. Keep your back of your head on the floor. You can reach down with your right hand and rest it on the top knee. Maybe find a resting place for the fingers to go in the pit of the knee. Come back to your breath. In through the nose, back out through the nose, calm and steady, just like in the beginning. If you find that you want a little bit deeper of a twist, take the time to straighten out your bottom leg
Maybe scoot your hip under a little bit again, and then you'll find that you can go that little bit deeper because that leg is out of the way. You can always put a block under your knee or between your knees, sinking into your mat. Make sure that you're not pulling with that arm that's resting on the knee if you're doing that. And you don't have to. You can keep both arms out in a T if you prefer. But that arm is just there for weight. So this is a lovely passive twist, helping to release tension that might have built up along your spine. I don't know if you can hear, that's Bella breathing, that's not me. She's off camera, but she's as per usual here. The other thing that twists do is restore the equilibrium within our nervous system, as well as releasing tension. This kind of dishcloth style wringing out of our spine is so good for that reason. Just another couple of breaths. Actually, we've got 3 minutes and we've got enough time, so we'll stay here for the full 3 minutes, so not quite 30 more seconds. On an inhale, bring your knees back to the center. Plant those foot soles, push into them, lift your hips into the air, and then we'll go to the other side. So inhale and drop those knees over to the left. You can reach down with that hand, rest it on the side of the knee. Again, finding that place in the pit of your knee to rest your fingers if you like. Turn your head, look to the outstretched right hand, thinking about your ear, your right ear, that it could come onto your mat. And that'll bring the twist all the way into your neck vertebrae as well. And if you find, and especially if you did it on the first side, that you want that deeper twist, then straighten out the bottom leg, scoot that hip under a little bit more maybe. Resting your hand, or not, you can always leave them outstretched in that T shape. Not a problem if that feels nicer for your arms, your shoulders perhaps. Steady breathing in and out through your nose. Twisting is one of the best things we can do for our spine. And because of its work on the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest, calmness, that's the reason why it's so often at the end of a yoga class. Just letting your body process and relax after stressing it. One more lovely, delicious minute here. Still using your yogic breath.
our breath.
And then on your next inhale, slowly untwirl, planting your foot soles. Push into them, lift your hips into the air so you realign your spine. And then set your hips down, bring your knees into your chest, wrap your arms around your shins, give yourself a hug, rock over that spine, massaging. If you like, you can plant your palms on your kneecaps and send them around a few times in nice big lazy circles, a couple of times one way. And then the same number of times the other way. A lovely way to massage that low to mid back. Squeeze again. And then let those legs come down, stretching out, getting ready for final Savasana.
Maybe slipping on that hoodie, covering up with a quilt if you like. You can always support under the backs of your knees, remember, if you like as well. Take in a nice deep breath, and we can open mouth side, let it go. Do that one more time, deep breath in, let it go. Let your breath be now whatever it wants to be. Float away to a happy place or stay within, watching the energies. Whatever you do choose, though, take rest. Let your body now absorb the benefits of this practice for another 3 or 4 minutes here in Shavasana. Thank you for coming, my friends. Namaste.